The digital screen at the station shows that the train to Ogium is finally arriving at the platform. Moving quickly through the dark tunnels, the massive machine heads toward the next destination. Standing near the doors, the young man thinks about how they will be getting off at the very next stop. Moving his heavy boots forward, the boy hears a girl tell him to just sit down and relax for a bit. After finishing some deliveries, the protagonist finally spends some time with his family after a long time. While sitting together, they laugh about old memories like the time someone kicked a ball into the woods. Looking quite calm, the main character listens to the stories and remembers his father from back then. Suddenly the scene starts to fade away into dark smoke since he did not actually meet any of those people. Watching a random kid run past him, the teen hears the little boy shouting for his mother in the distance. Standing by the door, the mother tells her son that he should not be running around in public places like this. Observing the small family, the lonely guy remains silent while the train continues its journey. Speeding out of the dark tunnel, the bright light from outside hits the top of the metal cars. Sitting all alone now, the boy realizes that the seats next to him are completely empty. Holding a tiny toy train keychain in his hand, the protagonist reveals he never even stepped outside. Looking at the small souvenir, the boy was only imagining a subway ride while staying at home. Looking inside the dark room, the boy spots a skeleton lying on the cold floor. Observing the bones, he realizes that this ruined building is far from being a real home. Staring with a blank expression, the young man thinks about how miserable his surroundings are. Standing by a broken window, he gazes out at the crumbling walls covered in moss. Peering further out, he sees a massive wasteland filled with giant black spikes everywhere. Recalling stories from an old man, he remembers hearing that things were different 40 years ago. Back then, the world was supposedly a peaceful place with clean rivers and bright lights. Everyone used to walk around without any fear while enjoying the beautiful city views. Suddenly, a bright light appeared in the sky and marked the start of a terrible disaster. Massive black pillars began falling from the clouds like a heavy rain of destruction. Crashing into the ground with incredible force, the strange objects caused a massive flash of light. Watching the memory unfold, the protagonist looks completely shocked by the scale of the tragedy. Realizing the world ended that day, he stands alone as one of the few remaining survivors. Kneeling on the dusty floor, the traveler thinks about the weirdest story he ever heard. Gripping a small toy train, the scout wonders why strangers would ever cram into a tiny subway. Looking down, the young man mutters about how everything is a big lie because he is tired of his current life. Walking through the ruins of a broken city, he thinks that peace is a fairy tale told by liars to trick people. Closing his eyes, the boy imagines something normal like riding a subway, even though that world is long gone. He wonders if flying through a dark tunnel would feel like breaking through time and space while he moves. Suddenly he stops because he hears the sound of footsteps coming from around the corner and hides behind a wall. Listening closely, the teenager realizes it sounds like soldiers and counts 2 of them walking together. Peeking through the debris, the protagonist wonders what those lone guys are doing in such a quiet place. Deciding to avoid any trouble, the boy prepares to sneak past them without being seen by the armed guards. Standing in the middle of the path is a soldier wearing a mask and holding a weapon while looking around. Raising his hand, the guard signals to his partner because they found traces of someone being in the area. Realizing his plan failed, the main character sighs and accepts that he cannot avoid a direct meeting anymore. Shouting out loud, the soldiers point their guns toward the shadows and demand to know who is hiding there. Trying to stay calm, the men keep their eyes focused on the figure while they wait for a response or a fight. Stepping into the light, the boy complains about the noise and the soldiers realize he is just a mail carrier. Walking ahead, the postman explains he is delivering an air raid warning and finished the letters yesterday. Observing the situation with a sharp eye, our protagonist decides to check out what is going on with the survivors. Standing there with a rifle, the soldier looks like he just came out of a really brutal fight in this war zone. Turning around calmly, the postman asks if the man is feeling hungry since they have been working so hard lately. Looking surprised, the soldier can barely believe that this delivery guy actually has some spare food to share with them. Smirking a bit, the young man asks if they have anything cool to trade because he only wants the best items in return. Searching through his gear, the soldier shows off some bandages and medicine along with a small battery for power. Wondering what the visitor might need, the guy in the mask asks what the postman specifically wants for the meal. Staying focused on his goal, the protagonist simply says that he is looking for some ammo to take away with him. Looking quite mysterious, the delivery boy stands tall while the soldiers act totally confused by the weird request. Repeating himself with a confident smile, the hero makes it very clear that he only cares about getting those bullets. Explaining his logic, the boy says he is not looking for gear to use himself even if their ammo is 5.56. Pointing out the facts, he mentions that a postman cannot carry heavy stuff, so small ammo is worth more to him. Refusing the medicine and the battery, the young traveler insists that bullets are the only thing he will accept right now. Trying to negotiate, the soldier explains that they also need to save their own supplies for the upcoming battles. Opening his bag, the protagonist offers to trade all his food for just one single bullet and leaves the men shocked. Standing firm, the boy offers only one item while promising to throw in a lighter if they agree to the deal. Pointing his finger, the young man asks if giving up a single bullet is really that hard for them to do right now. Looking into the dark glass of the mask, the reflection shows he remains completely unfazed by the tense situation. Inside the ruined building, the group stands together while the air gets heavier with every passing second. Squinting slightly, the protagonist begins to suspect something fishy about these guys and their intimidating gear. Carefully observing their every move, his sharp gaze starts to peel back the lies they are trying to hide. Suddenly he asks if those big weapons are actually empty because they look more like props than real threats. Angered by the comment, the soldier prepares his weapon to show the kid that he should watch his mouth. Raising his hands, the boy acts innocent and wonders why there is so much hate between people on the same side. Aiming the barrel at his face, the man calls him a useless mail carrier who does nothing to help the war effort. Feeling insulted, the main character notes that saying they will never return home reveals their true intentions. Turning around, he realizes these men are not lost soldiers but instead cowards running away from their duties. With a small smile, the youth declares they are nothing more than common thieves hiding behind military uniforms. Enraged by the truth, the bandit swings his heavy rifle to strike the kid down for being so disrespectful. Moving swiftly out of the way, the boy explains that this violent reaction only proves his point even more. The hero kicks the masked guy right in the face while saying he is totally out of bullets now. As the opponent tries to stab him in the neck, the agile boy shifts his body to avoid the sharp blade. Hidden behind the mask, the mercenary looks completely stunned because his fast attack failed to hit the target. Looking calm, the young fighter says the villain is way too slow and his moves are very easy to predict. Using his momentum, the protagonist delivers another powerful kick while spinning on the ground like an acrobat. Getting pushed back, the confused soldier wonders how a simple postman can actually fight like a pro. Standing up, the main character complains that his enemy keeps mentioning his job over and over again. When the knife comes down again, he uses a hidden metal part on his arm to block the strike with sparks flying. White eyes show through the goggles as the attacker realizes his blade just hit something solid and tough. Calling it pure discrimination, the teenager pulls his fist back to deliver a massive counterattack. With incredible force, the boy throws a punch that looks like it could break a stone wall easily. Impact sends the masked man flying backward while he lets out a pain sound from the heavy blow. Falling to the floor, the warrior asks how a lowly worker got his hands on such high-level military gear. Showing off the special shield on his sleeve, the cool youth stands tall while the enemy looks terrified. Checking the new scratch on his equipment, he looks annoyed because the villain damaged an expensive item. Walking past the fallen soldiers, the boy asks how they will pay him while the guard warns about the death penalty. Reaching inside his dark blue coat, the young man prepares to show them something very interesting. Showing off a sleek black weapon, the mysterious guy mentions this specific gun is his choice. Looking through his visor, the fallen soldier realizes that is a hunter pistol and gets totally shocked. Being asked who he really is, the calm traveler just stares back without showing any fear at all. Smiling a little, the stranger says he is just your average postman doing his daily job around here. Looking at the tear in his sleeve, the boy realizes he will get in big trouble once he returns to headquarters. Checking the damage, the worker wonders if a quick patch job would be enough to fix the mess for now. Putting his jacket back on, the young hero complains that he should have charged those guys way more money. Feeling ready to continue the journey, the messenger asks if they should finally start moving again. Walking down the ruined street, the clock keeps ticking with only 3 hours left before the big air raid begins. Reaching a massive metal wall, the traveler is suddenly stopped by a loud voice telling him to halt right there. Aiming their rifles from above, the guards look confused because they did not expect anyone to show up. Looking down at the road, the watchers wonder why a simple mailman is walking around this dangerous area. Lifting a white paper with a bird symbol, the courier shows his official documents to prove he belongs there. Standing there shocked, the masked guard stares at the boy because he cannot believe what he is hearing. Staying calm, the young postman explains that a big air raid is coming in 2 hours and 40 minutes exactly. Shocked by the news, the kid wonders why a mailman is the one giving out such a dangerous warning today. Mentioning a giant pillar about to fall, the guard stops talking when a voice tells them to focus on the work. Reaching into his bag, the delivery boy says he will start the alarm while looking very serious about the task. Activating a glowing red device, the guy makes the soldier panic and shout for the captain to come immediately. Pointing toward the entrance, the soldier tells the messenger to get inside quickly while the gadget keeps beeping. Walking through the dark corridor, the protagonist enters the facility while everyone watches him from a distance. Looking up at the ceiling, the main character observes the surroundings with a calm and analytical expression. Noticing the strong steel roof above him, he thinks it is impressive that this place lasted such a long time. Passing by the crowd, the teen hears people doubting if he is actually a real postman because he looks so young. Staring with wide eyes, the little girl says she will stay right there and wait for whatever happens next. Turning his head slightly, the visitor ignores the whispers and continues his path toward the center of the base. Leading the way, the masked scout announces that he has brought the guest to meet the boss of the settlement. Analyzing the muscular man in front of him, the boy wonders if this bearded guy is truly the leader in charge. First, we learn the main rule about knowing local laws, since these couriers are the only connection left for humanity. Because the world is totally broken, every small town created their own strange religions and weird ways of living. Standing before a huge guy, the young messenger remembers he should stay quiet until someone actually talks to him. Suddenly, the big man calls out to the visitor while pointing a finger to get his attention right away. Grinning widely, the tall man puts his arm around the kid and offers a free drink while leading him inside. While looking at some bottles, the host mentions he wants to avoid a scene and asks about a mysterious black pillar. Reaching into his bag, the courier hands over a report from headquarters stating the danger arrives in 2 hours. Looking at the messy numbers on the page, the bartender admits he has no clue what any of this data means. When asked if the town will survive, the boy simply replies that he is just a delivery guy and not some genius expert. Walking away from the counter, the youth keeps repeating that he knows nothing despite the man asking for the truth. Getting angry, the big guy yells for the visitor to leave, but then a second rule about not getting involved appears. Showing a calm face, the boy remembers that he must never interfere with whatever happens in these places. Squatting on the floor, the protagonist mentions that he still has some important duties to finish before heading out. Looking down with a curious face, the host asks if this is official government work, and the kid just agrees. Placing a strange machine on the ground, the boy explains this tool measures the power of the pillars falling from the sky. The boy explains how they compare real data with HQ predictions while the man worries about the roof messing things up. He notes that experts say the black pillars act like living things as they slow down and aim perfectly at their targets. Looking serious, the main character turns around because he only has one single bit of advice left to give the man. The bearded guy stays quiet while being told that there are only 1 hour and 50 minutes remaining for everyone there. Walking through the area, the young messenger notices how people always react the same way when a stranger arrives. Suddenly, a group of residents start shouting for the postman so they can try to trade for some useful items. Raising his voice, the protagonist asks the crowd if any of them have some ammunition available for a quick barter. Everything goes silent as the boy expected, since finding bullets in a place like this is almost impossible for anyone. A voice calls out to the postman from the side as someone approaches him to offer something different instead. A hand holds out a rusty grenade while the person admits they have no ammo but wonders if this weapon will work. While walking away, the man asks why he would trade bandages for a grenade that might be totally broken and useless. Staring at the explosive, the kid claims he can tell it works just by looking and thinks it was a great deal anyway. The man decides to stay behind because he hopes the roof might actually protect him from whatever is coming next. Turning back, the big guy mentions that he actually has a favor to ask the messenger before they go their separate ways. A cheerful girl named Jianhui shows up and introduces herself since they met for a short time earlier that day. While walking away, the boy stops a small girl who asks if he is returning to headquarters now. Looking confused, the young man asks for an explanation about why she is bothering him. Scratching his neck, the older man explains that the child has a package and needs to go with him. Surprised by the request, the teenager wonders why she would travel so far just for some mail. Walking ahead, he tells her to get lost because only his shadow is allowed to follow his steps. Suddenly, the girl turns on a bright light and points it directly at the ground near his feet. Extremely annoyed, the main character shouts that she is wasting battery and rejects her offer again. Reaching into her pocket, the little one reveals a full magazine of bullets to change his mind. Seeing the bribe, the big guy hides his face while the girl stares with big hopeful eyes. Examining the item, the boy notes that this poor village should not be giving ammo to a child. Realizing it is high-grade military gear, he notices the metal case is almost completely full. Staying silent for a moment, the traveler carefully considers if this deal is worth the trouble. Patting her head, the muscular man insists that he must take the kid along to the main base. Accepting the trade, the youth wonders what will happen to the man if he stays behind alone. Smiling softly, the warrior says that this location is his home and he will stay there forever. The muscular man explains that someone must stay to guard the place, but he refuses to let the girl join this risky gamble. Thinking about the shelter, the hooded traveler looks back while mentioning that a simple roof is all they have. Moving away, he explains that any building can be fixed later since lives are much more important than some old walls. He orders his companion to follow and she quickly obeys while the big guy watches them leave the area. Walking through the destroyed city, the boy warns about an incoming raid and the friend wonders if the base is safe. He bluntly denies it and she gets confused, then asks why he kept that a secret from the people staying behind. Stopping for a moment, the protagonist says there are two main reasons for his silence regarding the true danger. He explains that those determined to stay wouldn't change their minds even if they knew the terrible truth. Looking at the dark sky, he mentions that this world always hides a tiny 1 in a million chance for survival. Turning his head, he admits there is a small hope they might live through the chaos just like he did before. High above the clouds, a strange red glow begins to form as the atmosphere becomes heavy and filled with tension. Inside the bar, a glass of liquor shakes on the table while a soldier wonders why the captain refuses to evacuate. Resting at the counter, the leader claims the roof will protect them, yet he drinks his most expensive bottle. A mysterious figure wearing a mask slides a beverage over and tells the man to enjoy the liquid while they wait. Taking a sip, the captain wonders if the postman had any other messages or secrets to share before departing. Opening his eyes, the protagonist seems lost in a deep thought while staring at nothing in particular. Looking at the smoke, the boy remembers that even a destroyed roof can be fixed as long as they stay together. Holding a glass, the man thinks about the hidden meaning behind the words that were spoken earlier that day. Inside the quiet bar, a traveler asks the strong captain if there is anything at all left for him to chew on. Looking down, the big man admits that he only has a small piece of jerky left to offer at this moment. Suddenly, we see a young girl biting into a piece of food as she enjoys the rare snack with all her heart. Approaching the postman, she jokes that his bag must be a magic pouch since so many things keep coming out of it. Looking at the clip, he realizes that out of 30 bullets there is at least a single round missing from the set. Thinking about the situation, he knows the captain would not give the child an incomplete clip on purpose. Blinking in surprise, the postman hears the little girl thank him for actually keeping his promise to her. Sitting on the ground, she admits that she was afraid he would just take the ammo and leave her behind all alone. Walking away, the protagonist acts cool by saying he is not even paying attention to her following him around. Wanting to be polite, the girl says she really needs to find a way to thank him properly for his help today. With a huge smile on her face, she makes a strange finger gesture that looks more like an insult than a thank you. Looking back, the boy feels confused and asks the kid what in the world the gesture is supposed to mean. Telling the young girl to pay attention, the teenager explains that her home gestures mean something else here. Introducing herself properly, the small girl says her name is Kyung-hee and waits for his response. Because they are now in the dangerous outside world, he warns her to follow the local rules to stay safe. Showing a new way to communicate, the companion grabs her hands to demonstrate the correct movement. Giving a big thumbs up, the boy says this is how she should express herself while she looks quite confused. Shocked by the sudden change in their situation, the kid stares with wide eyes as something begins to happen. Standing together in the wasteland, the older one looks at the horizon and says that the time has finally arrived. Suddenly, a massive blast of energy hits the ground with a loud sound that shakes everything around them. Taking cover against a wall, the teen tells his friend to cover her ears because the noise is about to get intense. Thinking about the terrifying atmosphere, the protagonist describes how the sky above seems to hold a silent fury. Remembering old stories, he talks about the black pillars that fell from the clouds like giant metal nails. Looking at the ruins, the narrator explains that decades have passed since the previous era completely collapsed. While showing the destroyed city, he mentions how these smart weapons target only the most important human facilities. Curious about the strange term, the girl wonders about the underground place he calls the Geofront. Anticipating the next wave, the fighter says it is coming and a blinding light flashes right in front of them. Crashing through the atmosphere, a massive metallic object strikes the city with enough force to shatter the ground below. Falling from the gray sky, several dark pillars descend upon the ruins while leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Caught in the middle of the chaos, the young girl braces herself as the blinding light and debris explode all around her. Staring at the wreckage, the narrator mentions that the settlement of the child was hit by an extreme stroke of bad luck. Watching the scene, two figures stand small against a giant pillar because most air raids are never quite this massive. Standing tall, the postman explains that he came to find a device since communication is now impossible in this era. Looking at the floating scraps of metal, he realizes that the precious core is broken and recovery is simply impossible. Turning his head, the courier tells the small girl that their job is finished and they must head back to headquarters. Staying behind on her knees, the girl remains still while the man turns around to ask what she is doing there. Wearing a heavy gas mask, the young girl with long braids stays silent as if she is struggling with something inside. Walking away, the traveler says it is time to leave and the child simply responds with a quiet okay while following him. Moving through the shattered streets, the duo appears like tiny dots among the rubble of a civilization that fell apart. Crying silently under her breath, the little girl lets tears roll down her face because of the tragedy she witnessed. Looking up at her companion, the child calls out to the mailman as a sudden thought crosses her mind during the walk. Considering the situation, the man notes that although the black pillars are a disaster, they might have one good side. Looking at the ruins after an air raid, the little girl notices how clear the sky has become because the smoke is gone. Staring at the beautiful night sky, she sees the stars shining brighter than they ever did on any other day. Standing together, the postman tells the kid that bad things can sometimes bring a little beauty into the world. Looking at him with a straight face, the child asks if he is actually trying to make her feel better right now. Walking away, the mailman says he just hates crying because it wastes too much energy for their long trip ahead. Seeing his funny reaction, a small smile finally appears on the young girl's face as they continue their journey. While trekking through the rubble, she asks why he even wants to be a delivery guy or if he has any real dreams. Avoiding the question, the traveler asks why her letter is so important, but the child still wants to know his story. Feeling annoyed by her persistence, the man decides to show her something very special he keeps hidden in his pocket. Reaching into his bag, he pulls out a tiny keychain of a train, and the curious girl wonders what this object is. Smiling proudly, the guy explains that this is a subway and it used to carry hundreds of people everywhere underground. Examining the toy, the kid thinks it looks small enough to eat, so the man explains it is just a tiny version. Closing his eyes for a moment, he tells her to just imagine how amazing it would be to see the real thing. Visualizing the past, he describes a fast machine moving through the earth as he hopes to ride one someday. Laughing at his dream, the girl tells him he is much more innocent than he looks, and the man gets pretty mad. The guy looks at the girl and asks her how much longer she plans on hiding that secret from him. Pointing out the magazine from before, he says she definitely took one single bullet for herself. While he tries to act tough to make her talk, the little child suddenly admits that she actually ate it. Being completely shocked, he asks why she did that, and she explains that her jerky was all gone. Gritting his teeth, the traveler realizes this kid has some really weird and dangerous habits to fix. Looking down at the little one, he stays silent for a moment while processing the strange news. Gently touching her shoulder, the man says she should just ask him if she ever feels that hungry again. The girl stares back at the mailman and starts to say something, but her face shows a lot of worry. Suddenly, the protagonist pulls her close because he hears an eerie noise coming from the shadows. Whispering softly, he tells the child to stay perfectly still and not to make even a single sound. It turns out this world didn't just end because of bombs, but also because of something much worse. Creepy black monsters born from tall pillars are wandering around and looking for their next meal. Drawing his sharp blade, the hero decides to finish these creatures quickly without being noticed. Just as he moves forward, one of the dark beasts turns around and spots him right in his tracks. Seeing the danger, the small girl raises her heavy weapon and prepares to blast the enemies away. Suddenly, a flash occurs as the young girl fires her weapon, and the boy looks on with shock at what she just did. Staring intensely, the child reveals that she actually had some extra ammo hidden away this whole time. Frustrated by the situation, the protagonist calls her an idiot while more shadow creatures begin to rush toward them. Moving like a flash, the main character uses a small blade to take down an enemy with ease. In the distance he looks around and realizes that there is still one more monster lurking nearby. Behind the poor girl a massive dark figure appears and looks ready to strike her down. Jumping into action, the hero tries to reach the enemy before it can do any harm to his companion. With wide eyes, the boy is surprised when something goes wrong during his desperate attempt to save her. Unfortunately, the shadow creature manages to land a heavy blow that sends the girl flying through the air. On the ground, the victim lies defeated after taking such a powerful hit from the beast. Quickly, the warrior calls out to the fallen child while feeling a deep sense of worry. While holding her gently, he asks why she did not listen to his warnings since his knife alone was not enough. Demanding an answer, the guy wonders why she lied about the ammo, and she says her captain taught her how to survive. Because a secret plan is necessary, the survivor praises his skills before he tells her to rest. At the end, the protagonist shows a cold gaze as his eyes glow with a mysterious blue light. Looking at the status bar, we see that the survival chance is only 0.9% while a hand rests on the body. Holding the girl tightly, the protagonist realizes that the medicine is gone and the gunshot will attract many enemies. Gazing down with a sad face, the boy says he understands the situation, but his heart feels heavy for his friend. Coughing and clearly in a bad state, the young lady looks up and asks the boy for one final favor before they part. Pulling a bloodied envelope from her clothes, the girl shows him a letter that needs to be delivered right now. Staring at the paper, the main character asks if she really wants him to act as a postman in this dangerous place. Taking a closer look at the envelope, we can see the name of the sender and the province where she came from. Scanning the text, his eye narrows when he realizes the destination is not located where he expected it to be. Begging with tears in her eyes, she claims this letter is something worth risking a life for and hopes he accepts. Turning his head, the boy notices that other dangerous groups are already closing in on their location right now. Looking back at him, the girl asks if he still carries that special item he traded for earlier during their journey. Smiling despite the pain, she tells him to keep that object as payment for the delivery as long as he makes a promise. Emerging from the darkness, some terrifying monsters with glowing eyes start to surround the pair on the ground. Watching from above, the strange creatures gather under the full moon while they wait for the perfect time to strike. Holding a grenade, the girl decides to draw their attention so the protagonist can escape and finish the mission. Lifting her arm despite the pain, she holds onto a small metal object while bleeding heavily on the ground. Staring into the dark alley, she begs him with her last breath to fulfill a very important request. Looking back with a serious expression, the mysterious worker listens as she asks him to deliver the final mail. Smiling through the blood on her face, the girl gives her thanks while the young man watches in complete silence. Grabbing the pin with a firm grip, she calls him the postman for the very last time before taking action. Surrounded by dark shadows, the monsters gather around as a bright light begins to grow from the center. Exploding into the night sky, the blast destroys everything nearby and leaves only smoke behind in the city. Laying scattered on the floor, the remains of the creatures start to glow after the huge impact happened. Watching from the darkness, a strange mechanical beast with a red eye stares at the screen with a creepy look. Reaching into the rubble, the guy finds a glowing white pearl and realizes one of them actually had a core. Standing alone amidst the ruins, the delivery man looks at the destruction while his jacket flows in the wind. Glancing up at the bright moon, he thinks to himself that sleeping tonight will be almost impossible for him. Shifting the scene, we see the massive and futuristic new government complex standing tall under the blue sky. Walking inside the elevator, the worker carries his messenger bag and prepares for another long day of service. Noticing his arrival, a friendly man named Director Beg greets Jungkook with a big smile and a loud voice. Walking down the hall, the boss notices the young guy looks tired and asks if work went well today. Pointing his finger, the leader mentions a special briefing starts soon, so he better not miss it. Although the hero says he is exhausted, his superior pushes him to go since he might like the news. Accepting the situation with a sigh, the tired postman decides to just follow the orders given to him. Inside the room, the meeting begins as the officer prepares to explain the new plan to everyone present. Standing before the crowd, the man mentions he will show some important photos regarding the mission. Watching carefully, the protagonist focuses his gaze as the presentation starts to reveal more details. Memories of a girl named Kyung-hee appear in his mind while he stays silent during the explanation. Thinking back, he recalls making a special promise with his hands while talking to that small kid. Holding a small object, the person expresses gratitude while the scene returns to the current moment. Raising his hand, the young man interrupts the speech because he has a specific question to ask now. After being allowed to speak, the boy asks if they will use vehicles since the delivery is very heavy. Pointing at the whiteboard, the instructor shows the planned route, but someone claims it is impossible. Smiling confidently, the leader insists it is possible because they will use the subway for this task. Hearing about the underground path, the hero looks completely surprised and focused on the new information. Looking surprised, the young man hears that a certain place is currently being rebuilt. He can hardly believe his ears because the mention of a subway is totally unexpected. Showing the secret plans, the speaker explains they must move military supplies through transit points. Pointing at the whiteboard, the man mentions that preliminary work is required before the reconstruction starts. Stepping forward, the glasses guy says he will explain since this operation needs people with great records. Standing firmly, the officer clarifies that the current mission is actually a test to find the best recruits. Wondering about the stranger, the boy realizes he has never seen this specific officer in any department before. Giving the signal, the speaker tells everyone who wants to join to move into the next room immediately. Holding a small train toy, the teenager thinks about finally seeing a real subway with his own eyes. Feeling pumped, the boy imagines that he might even get the chance to ride inside one of those trains. Blocking the path, the tall man stops the student and says that he is a special exception today. Staring intensely, the official calls the protagonist by his full name, which is Woo Jong-kuk. Suddenly, a loud noise echoes through the hall as the heavy doors slam shut behind the other group. Asking for an explanation, the boy gets told that the officer has orders to give him a private mission. Looking suspicious, the young man feels like something is wrong because the stranger already knows his identity. Starting with a new task, a man receives a folder while being told he is now in charge of a specific area. Looking at the map, he notices the region is very easy to manage because the government helps with all deliveries there. Suddenly, someone mentions a special meeting and the hero wonders if his boss is secretly helping him stay safe. Holding the papers, he asks if he should start working now since he thinks this safe job was a gift from a director. Unexpectedly, the other official pulls the document away and says he is giving that simple job to someone else instead. Confused by the sudden change, the protagonist asks why he was shown the details if he cannot actually do the work. Adjusting his glasses, the manager explains that picking the staff is his choice alone despite what others ordered him. Staring intensely, the young man realizes the situation makes no sense and feels like he is being played for a fool. Walking around the office, the suit mentions he checked the guy's background and found that his past is way too clean. Flipping through the files, he points out that the deliverer seems to have appeared out of nowhere before this job. Suspiciously, he continues explaining that a person with such a hidden profile usually has a very dark secret. Admitting his bias, the clerk says he hates people who use powerful friends to get ahead instead of using real skill. Looking down at the shorter rival, the main character asks if those insults were meant for him, but the boy denies it. Watching their shadows, the nerd says he is just sharing his personality because he hates anyone who is sneaky. Facing each other, they talk about how the worker always holds the first place rank by only picking easy tasks. Facing a tough choice, the glasses guy says only the best get picked while the boy wonders if his skills are doubted. Looking down at his clothes, the professional man confirms that the situation is exactly as the boy suspected. Receiving a call on his device, the boss walks away because he needs to handle some very urgent business right now. Walking through the hallway, the man agrees to pay the highest fee because the letter he carries is quite dangerous. Staring ahead with a sharp look, the young postman decides to show everyone what a real delivery looks like. Slamming his hand onto the desk, the boy asks his boss if the request he just made is actually impossible to finish. Sitting in the office, the older man warns the hero that this mission belongs to others and might be too hard. Crossing his arms, the boss wonders if the boy became friends with that officer just to get this specific task. Smiling confidently, the protagonist says he wants to get closer while the man tells him not to end up dead. Looking determined, the young man plans to prove his worth so he can finally reach the subway as he planned. Remembering a dark moment, he thinks about survival rates and a girl named Kyung-hee thanking him for his help. Waking up suddenly in the middle of the night, the hero breathes heavily because of the intense dream he had. Sitting on the edge of his bed, the boy realizes that these memories will keep bothering him for a long time. Approaching the man with glasses, the postman asks if that letter in his hand is the one he needs to deliver. Trying to walk past him, the professional says he is too busy for talk, but the boy claims he is also very occupied. Looking very surprised, the man in glasses asks what is going on while the other guy mentions a letter delivery. Confused by the change, the suit guy says he checked the name, but the delivery boy claims to be a substitute. Handing over some official papers, the messenger explains that everything was done by the book just like his boss likes. Looking pretty confident, the brown-haired boy thinks he will be considered super skilled if he finishes 2 days early. Staring at the document in silence, the businessman seems to be doubting the situation while holding the white paper. Getting closer to the boy, the man asks if he is doing this because of his pride or for some other secret reason. Looking away, the young worker simply says that he does not really care and that this is just a normal job for him. Finally passing over the red envelope, the boy tells the man to hurry up so they can get this over with quickly. After the mail is accepted, they both agree to leave the place as soon as possible to start the dangerous mission. Standing alone, the serious man thinks about what might happen if the boy actually returns from the trip unharmed. Adjusting his glasses, the suit guy decides to stay quiet and simply hopes that they can both meet again while alive.